And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, we have breaking news when it comes to the corruption case involving former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao.
Absolutely.
The U.S. Attorney's Office in Northern California have just charged San Leandro City Councilman Brian Acevedo with conspiracy to commit honest services wire fraud, false statements for taking kickbacks and bribes for helping a housing company get a city contract. John, do you have any idea what family that housing company is from?
Is it the Dong family?
Why, yes, it is.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
This was the guy that was trying to get all the city council members and the city manager to come meet at one of these shipping containers for one of Andy Dong's parties. This is the guy that also went on that trip to Vietnam with Sheng.
Wasn't that where they went to the illicit massage parlors?
Yes, and this is the guy that talked to ABC7's Dan Noyes, where Dan Noyes said, I'm not sure you should be telling me the things that you're telling me right now.
Yeah, he should have had an attorney way back then.
This was the guy that got raided by the FBI about 6 months ago, and here we are. The charges are a-coming. This case is not over.
There were more politicians on that trip to Vietnam with Sheng and him and the Dongs.
Yes, there were. And I'm sure they're going to get a talking to from the FBI next. How do you feel about that, Shang-Yi?
How
Absolutely
are you?
good.
Love to shake your hand.
Yes, it's been amazing.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the editor of the California Globe. You can read her online at californiaglobe.com and follow her on X at Katy Sack Citizen. Katy Grimes, welcome.
Hi, John. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. So let's start out with the news. Gavin Newsom went on with CBS over the weekend and acknowledged for the first time that he is considering running for president, which is interesting because when he was asked about it the last time, he said he had sub-zero interest in ever running for president. And oh boy, have times changed.
Yeah, oh boy, have times changed. I think it probably has more to do with the fact that Kamala is out there on her world book tour and continues to tell interviewers that she's not giving up, she's not going anywhere, and I think she's trying to signal that she's going to run again as well. So I'm sure his side doesn't want to let her get ahead of him.
What do you think that's about? Do you think she's actually considering running again? Because her polling numbers are awful. She did a very poor job the last time around. I can't imagine the Democratic Party would have any interest in using her again. Is she actually thinking about running, or is she just trying to sell books?
I think it's twofold. Absolutely, she needs to sell books, but I also think Kamala likes the lifestyle she gets to live while she's running for whatever office it is. I think, how did she blow through $1.5 billion in 107 days? I imagine there's a lot of very fine hotels in this country that were very happy to see her.
Gavin Newsom recently went on a podcast where he talked about his childhood and told the host that he grew up in a single-parent family, that he had to hustle as a kid, that he was, I guess, a latchkey kid where he had to entertain himself with a basketball by himself in the backyard in order to avoid becoming a statistic, despite the fact that his father was a judge who became the consigliere for the Getty family. The Getty family, of course, who financed 10 out of his 11 businesses. He is personal friends with the Gettys, has been for a very long time, yet he's trying to sell himself as someone who grew up in a log cabin as a presidential candidate.
Yeah, log cabin Gavin. This is Gavin who absolutely melts into the persona that the interviewer, he thinks what they want to hear. I mean, we saw him do it on his first This Is Gavin podcast with Charlie Kirk, when he told Charlie Kirk he agreed with him that biological males should not be participating in women's sports, yet he had plenty of time and authority to do something about it in California, and in fact has, done quite the opposite. He turns around and he supports it. So I think he's a pathological liar, and will say anything to whoever he's speaking to kind of please them.
Well, to the point on Charlie Kirk, I just saw this today. When Charlie Kirk was a guest on Gavin's podcast, he told Charlie Kirk that his son was a massive fan and would listen to the podcast all the time and really looked up to Charlie. In a subsequent podcast interview with a different political slant, he was asked about Charlie Kirk and his son, and he said, oh, yeah, he was familiar with him, but that was it.
Yeah, it's again, it is amazing that, he is a compulsive liar, but I sometimes think his inauthenticity leads him to compulsively lie to whomever he is speaking. So he's covering lies and lies and lies. I heard that too and thought, oh my God, he fell all over himself in front of Charlie Kirk to tell him that his son was a big fan. He didn't have to go there. All he had to say was, even my kid, knows who you are and listens to you sometimes.
Let's also talk about another part of Gavin's biography that doesn't make sense to me. He said after he was caught sleeping with the campaign manager's wife that he had an alcohol problem and he went in for rehab and completed the rehab. Yet in subsequent interviews, recent interviews, he said that he sits in front of the television with a glass of wine watching the nightly news. And there was an interview that was given to Bloomberg recently from his friend who was the sports agent who hosted the podcast with Gavin and Marshawn Lynch, where he said that after the fires, the LA fires, when Gavin was being blamed, Gavin was so distraught he drank an entire bottle of tequila.
Yeah. Again, I think Gavin says whatever Gavin thinks he needs to say when he's caught in a lie or he's caught in a world of hurt. It's I've written about this for so many years, and all I ever come back to is he's either a compulsive liar, which is a habitual liar, or he's a pathological liar, which is someone who lies to incessantly get their way. He actually mocked the fact that he didn't go into rehab. He didn't feel like it. And he just says the complete opposite. So, again, I'm little Miss Media over here trying to make sure that his lies are exposed, but I sure wish some bigger media people would try to do the same. When
politicians run for president, they typically put a book out. If he puts a book out and he talks about these things, when he's on both sides of virtually every story he's ever told about himself, it seems like he's going to go through the Kristi Noem situation where he's going to say things that are provably false, and that could cause his campaign to blow up on takeoff.
Yeah, it could actually. That would be fascinating to watch. Because it would depend on a couple things, John. A, if he has a ghostwriter or he actually sits down and writes it. And I think what happens with a lot of politicians is even if they're somewhat involved, they get caught not knowing what's in their own book based on some anecdotes or stories they told the writer. This could be very interesting. I don't know when he has time to write a book either.
We're speaking with Katy Grimes, who's the editor of the California Globe. You can follow her on X at Katy Sack Citizen. Katy, Gavin Newsom recently came out and told his donors to stop donating to his campaign for Prop 50. Gavin says it's over and there's no need to buy more ads. When you watch television or listen to the radio, at least in the Los Angeles market that I consume, you see very few No on 50 ads. So it seems like the yes side and Gavin Newsom isn't the only entity taking their foot off the gas pedal. What's the feeling in Sacramento when you talk to politicos about Prop 50? Do they think it's over?
I think a lot of people do, because Gavin and his media machine are out there with a gazillion ads, radio, TV, and social media, online ads daily, telling everybody that it's all but over. Sadly, it can be very effective. I know that gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton says, no, it's not all over. And he's out there, forcefully speaking against Proposition 50. I don't hear much from the Republican Party. I understand that Charles Munger hasn't contributed anything additionally to the campaign. So, I don't know how to take the temperature on it. It doesn't feel good, but I still say it's not over.
When you talk to Democrats in the Capitol in Sacramento, what did they think about Scott Wiener challenging Nancy Pelosi in the Democratic primary, I guess the open primary, for Congress for that congressional seat that she's had since the 80s in San Francisco? Are they cheering him on, or did he just cross a line within the Democratic Party that you can't go back from?
Well, I'm not hearing much from Democrats. It seems like lips are sealed, which is very curious. It sure looks like he crossed the line. And I think, while Nancy Pelosi is 85 and not at her sharpest self anymore, and we all wish she retired 10 years ago, she still is a power broker in that seat. And I actually think Scott Wiener is going to be made, I think there's going to be some hell to pay for stepping over that line.
I would imagine that Democratic women in particular do not like the fact that a guy is challenging a longtime member of Congress who happens to be a female, and that they might see this as sexist.
Well, of course, they're perpetual victims. So yeah, I'm sure they'll call it whatever they possibly can, whether it's sexist or not. I just think he's an opportunist and ambitious, and sees that as he's the heir apparent to that seat. So I think he just got impatient and took advantage of Nancy's, I'll just say, aging. We'll leave it at that.
A lot of people are anticipating additional candidates jumping in the race for governor. Some of the names on the list include Rick Caruso, the developer in Los Angeles. Certainly, U.S. Senator Alex Padilla is seen as a potential candidate. Grant Cardone, who is close to President Donald Trump, is someone who is also looking at it. But I have heard recently from not one, but multiple people that United States Senator Adam Schiff is making calls to donors, asking them if they would consider backing him should he run for governor. Are you hearing that Adam Schiff could jump in this race?
I have not heard that at all. So my jaw is lying on my desk right now, John. Wow. If California couldn't get any more weird, Scott Wiener running for Congress and Adam Schiff running for governor, God help us.
And Gavin Newsom hasn't endorsed anyone yet.
I know. I think he's waiting.
Have you seen that happen before, where someone who's been in office for a long time, and not just in that office, but he was lieutenant governor before that, mayor before that, where they just seem to not care at all who their successor is? Because usually, even for seats in the legislature, a retiring member likes to hand the seat off to someone that they prefer over, I guess, the other candidates. And it seems like Gavin Newsom just doesn't care.
I don't know what it is, because he certainly exudes a whole bunch of I don't care about anything in this Capitol. I actually wonder, John, if it's the underwhelming candidates on the Democrat side, particularly that are currently the choices, even underwhelming as you just said, Caruso, Padilla, don't know much about Cardone and how serious he is. I have never seen such a group of politicians who really are so underwhelming. Everybody's kind of like yawning over this race. So I don't know if that's Gavin's motive, or Gavin's just going to flip the bird on his way out of office to everybody once he leaves.
What's the chatter in Sacramento about Katie Porter? Do they think she's finished?
Yeah, I think it's kind of universal. Again, not a lot of people really want to talk about it or commit to it. But the chat, what I do hear is, she cooked her own goose.
And she never was elected to state office. So it's not like she came from the state legislature or she was a statewide constitutional officer. The relationships that she has in Sacramento have to be pretty superficial compared to the other candidates. So if any candidate is going to get voted off the island, she would be at the top of the list.
Yeah, certainly. And I have to say, the rumblings that I hear is that nobody's sad to see her go. She's been a very, very unpopular politician in general. So I think there's a lot of people saying good riddance. Again, though, who could replace her is a big question. And again, there's just a lot of very underwhelming candidates.
According to the last poll, which was an Emerson poll, Steve Hilton, a Republican, formerly of Fox News, was leading the pack. Now, of course, there are more Democrats than Republicans, and a lot of people are undecided. So that doesn't mean, obviously, that he's the favorite to win the race. But is the feeling among Republicans in Sacramento that they prefer Steve Hilton over Chad Bianco, the sheriff of Riverside County?
That's the feeling that I get from people that I speak to, yes, that his populism is very popular. And I think people think he's a very good candidate. He's solid on the issues. He's sincere on the issues, which is also something we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So, yeah, I'm getting the feeling that people are certainly leaning more toward Hilton.
Katy Grimes, editor of the California Globe. You can read her online at californiaglobe.com and follow her on X at Katy Sac Citizen. Katy Grimes, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John. Great to be with you.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
David writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Hey, Randy and John, I think it might be time to start sending loaves of Wonder Bread and packages of mac and cheese to Gavin Newsom's house just to help him out. That man is such a liar, and he shows no respect for the people to think that we would believe that he grew up in such poverty.
It sounds like his fake diet as a teenager is the anti-paleo diet.
By the way, on his interview with Alex Michelson last night on CNN, he said that he is writing a book about his childhood, and it's coming out next year.
Ooh, I can't wait to read that one.
He says a lot of people have a lot of perceptions about his past, and he needs to correct the record.
Well, we'll definitely pay attention to that autobiography. And of course, Alex Michelson joins us later on in the broadcast. He's going to be here after the news at 2 to talk about that interview and to talk about his new program on weekday evenings on CNN. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Like, let's say that you're tuning in for the first time and you heard all these names a few minutes ago and you don't know who any of them are, whether it's Shang Tao.
Absolutely.
Brian Acevedo.
And he said absolutely.
Andy Dong.
That's right. I like that. That was amazing.
And you want to find out what all the connections are to these people? Well, you can go back in our history because we've been covering that case extensively. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could do a Google on the YouTube. You can get the free KABC app. You can get the free KSFO app. You can get the KMJ Now app because we're on that station on Saturdays from 2 to 3. There are so many different ways to listen live to our radio stations and download all the podcasts.
At the end of the day,
right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
questions.
And Randy, the first edition is an update on a story we brought you last week.
We all remember the story of the guy who was walking up on Sweetser in West Hollywood and got robbed at gunpoint for his Rolex. Then a few days later, armed robbers tried to go after another guy with his Rolex on Sweetser, but this guy was a professional boxer. So he beat the crap out of him, and this guy actually got arrested. Well, just because you get arrested doesn't mean anything happens to you. This guy was out on bail 2 days later.
For an armed robbery?
Yes.
I guess that's quote unquote accountability.
Let's find out why and how this happened and who's to blame. For more, here's NBC4 in Los Angeles.
Now at 5:30, back on the street, 2 days after NBC4 exclusively broke the story about the armed man who tried to steal someone's Rolex in West Hollywood. Tonight we understand that man is out of jail. LA County Sheriff's Department records show Samuel Crawford posted bail and was released today.
NBC4's Alex Rozier is again live in West Hollywood with details and now some reaction from some of the people who live there. Alex.
Michael and Colleen, neighbors here on Sweetser Avenue have been bothered by this story all week long because deputies say Samuel Crawford attempted to rob a man with a Rolex at gunpoint just down the block earlier this week. But now neighbors are more troubled by today's development that Crawford posted bond and is released from jail.
Does he get his gun back?
What's the point of risking your personal safety to detain a suspect so that they can be arrested if you know nothing's going to happen? And also look at it from this point of view. If you're a cop and you're expected to risk life and limb to arrest someone when they're committing a crime, why would you do that if you know they're just going to be released 2 days later?
We're not talking about some nonviolent person. We're not talking about a homeless person. This is somebody that tried to steal a watch with a gun. And that guy can get out on bail this quickly?
The cause for concern is pretty high. Concerned and confused, today neighbors on Sweetser Avenue in West Hollywood reacted to the news after they learned the man who deputies say attempted to steal someone's Rolex at gunpoint this week posted a $50,000 bond and was released from jail.
That's all.
I'll tell you, this state is so screwed. Because from Gavin Newsom's point of view, Gavin always says, when people say we don't arrest people when they break the law, they're not telling you the truth. Yeah, well, okay, in this particular case, an arrest was made, but you let them ride out. Well, the process is working its way through. Well, now you have a violent criminal on the streets able to prey on people yet again. And it wasn't just a gun that this guy had. It was a loaded gun that he was prepared to use.
He had cocked it before they had thrown the gun away.
How can this guy be released?
Well, let's continue.
This neighbor, worried for his safety, asked not to show his face.
It's disappointing. I don't necessarily know how the process works or, what the steps are, but this is too quick and this is too dangerous.
After the attack, Samuel Crawford didn't get away with the Rolex. Instead, he was beat up by the man he attempted to rob, a retired fighter.
At least there was that.
Yeah, because that's the only punishment this guy's going to get.
Crawford is now facing...
And now you got to think about this. If there's ever a target that's walking around there, it's the guy that beat up this criminal, and the criminal's now back out on the streets.
Yeah, and you can be the best fighter on planet Earth. If they have a gun and you don't, you lose.
I mean, he won that time, but
that's true.
You don't win every time.
Crawford is now facing multiple charges, including second-degree robbery and a charge for carrying a loaded firearm. Today, L.A. County District Attorney Nathan Hochman's office said Crawford's initial bond was set by the L.A. County Sheriff's Department before his first court appearance.
So the $50,000, that is what's called the pre-arraignment bond. So when the district attorney files charges, then they can set what they think the appropriate bail should be. We'll see if the judge goes along. But until that arraignment happens, you have to keep somebody in custody, or based on the bail schedule from the Sheriff's Department and LA County courts, you can decide that people can bond out before their arraignment. And according to LA County's current bail schedule, armed robbery is only $50K.
Is that something that Luna sets or those lunatics on the Board of Supervisors set?
This is something that is set by the LA County Superior Court themselves. These are the same people that came up with the no bail schedule for all the non-violent crimes. Turns out for the violent crimes, they decided we're going to go for very low bail.
I wonder if this guy's going to show up to his court date.
Might as well not.
The DA's office sent a statement that said in part, quote, "Our office filed charges timely and we're prepared to ask that bail be set at $100,000.
Still not high enough.
No, you have to set it at a number where you know this guy's not going to get out.
When you can go across the street from the courthouse and put down 10% to get a bond, you've got to make these numbers a hell of a lot higher, because if this guy's been stealing Rolexes for quite a while, he should be able to cough up 5 or 10 G's for his bail pretty quickly.
I can't believe that we can see this and they can't, where he's going to be rewarded with freedom because he can sell a stolen Rolex and make the $5,000 necessary to bond out.
Any questions regarding the...
What do you have to commit to have no bail until at least your arraignment?
Who knows?
You would figure armed robbery would be right up there, and it's not.
Any questions regarding the initial bond amount should be directed to the Sheriff's Department. We attempted to ask the Sheriff's Department for details on how the bond was determined, but we didn't hear back.
People react to a case like this. And
hey, it's Royal.
Our pal, the best in the business.
At this point, I think he's everybody's legal analyst.
Well, hey, once you have the best, why go to the second best?
people react to a case like this and say, how can this guy get out and why so fast?
Legal analyst Royal Oak said since Crawford posted bond before his initial court appearance, his bail may have been determined by the county's bail schedule.
Well, depending on the crime.
And this is the one that was endorsed by George Gascon, where it was no bail for a whole bunch of different offenses. The thing we didn't know at the time was for something like armed robbery, yeah, $50K will do it.
I know we're in Halloween season, but even though he's not in office, boy, is George Gascon still haunting us.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
His bail may have been determined by the county's bail schedule.
Well, depending on the crime, you know the default setting is it's X dollars for a certain crime. So what happens when somebody wants out is that the alleged crime is considered, and unless a judge objects, that bail is set and the person could be free within hours after arrest.
And knowing LA County judges, they're not likely to object to any of that.
No, because many of them have been appointed by Gavin Newsom or Jerry Brown.
Though the legal process is just beginning, Crawford's release only adds to the concern on Sweetser Avenue, a street that was already feeling uneasy.
There's a lot of worry. People are afraid to walk around. People are afraid of what they're wearing now, whether it's jewelry, watches.
For how expensive it is to live in West Hollywood, people should not have to feel that way.
And even within West Hollywood, Sweetser is a very good neighborhood.
Used to be.
There's a lot of worry. People are afraid to walk around. People are afraid of what they're wearing now, whether it's jewelry, watches, rings, etc. So I think this is a really high-level crime, especially because a gun was involved. So less than 48 hours, he's back is disappointing.
And as far as we know, he's the same guy that robbed the other guy successfully with the gun just a week before.
Well, it's not like the entire community has turned into watch robbers. It's a small group of people that are doing most of the crimes. And of course, this guy is part of it.
And speaking with legal analyst Royal Oaks, he said if Crawford...
Boy, Royal's getting all the love everywhere.
He deserves it.
He's our legal analyst. He's John Cobalt's legal analyst. He's ABC News' legal analyst. He's NBC4's legal analyst.
Hey, what is Fox going to get with a program?
And speaking with legal analyst Royal Oaks, he said if Crawford worked with a bail bondsman, he wouldn't have to put up the entire $50,000, typically 10% and non-refundable $5,000 in this case.
Which is chunk change if you are stealing Rolexes.
And that's a cash business. When you sell the Rolex, you're not being wired money. They're giving you cash.
Now, John, if you're the bondsman that decided to take a risk on this guy and you know that he's not going to show up, how big of a bounty hunter do you need to send after this guy?
Oh, you're getting the dog.
$5,000 in this case, and some collateral like a house or a car in case he...
Or a Rolex.
Like a house or a car in case he skips court. Speaking of court, Crawford's expected in the courtroom in mid-November. Reporting live in West Hollywood, I'm Alex Rozier, NBC4 News.
Hey, those prediction markets that everyone's talking about, can we place a bet on if this guy shows up to court?
Oh, we would put the farm on that one. Or maybe the Rolex. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
We get this question all the time, so we might as well just address it. Greg writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Subject line Gascon. Guys, what is Gascon saying in that clip? Somewhat ails? I've never been able to make it out. All right, for everybody.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
I know it sounds like gibberish, and it probably is. But what I have been told is that what George Gascon is saying...
We got some wobbly knees allies.
We've got some wobbly-kneesed allies.
I wonder if he were to have said that in court, what the court reporter would have written down.
Right.
Unintelligible.
The only clip of Gascon that I play that makes any sense is my favorite one.
Do a Google on YouTube.
And even that one doesn't make that much sense.
Alex Michelson joins us at the top of the hour. And right now it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And this time, Randy, we're moving from West Hollywood to plain old Hollywood,
where a woman got attacked on the street for no reason in the middle of the day because Hollywood's gonna Hollywood. For more, here's KTLA.
Search is on tonight for a man who violently attacked a model in the middle of the afternoon along a busy street in Hollywood.
The young woman was left bruised, shaken, and terrified. KTLA's Lindsay Pena joins us live in Hollywood with the story you'll see only on 5. Lindsay?
Yeah, Cher, Micah, we talked with that woman earlier today, and she's still healing from the attack. She says the person who attacked her is still on the loose, and she's now...
Well, it's an LA County story. What do you think was going to happen?
And even if an arrest was made, if you get out right away after you pull a gun on someone and try to steal their watch, what do you think is going to happen for a random attack?
Loose, and she's now worried to just be out in her own neighborhood. This video was taken just minutes after Candy Tansiri says she was attacked by a random stranger in the middle of the day while walking on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood.
I was shocked. Like literally shocked and terrifying.
She tells us the man was holding shoes and a plastic bag, and that's what she says he swung to hit her with.
Okay, there's a new weapon.
Okay, this has to be a crazy homeless person.
Shoes in a plastic bag, swinging them around like a mace.
What did he plan on doing with the shoes besides hitting her? Throwing them up on a telephone line?
She tells us the man was holding shoes and a plastic bag, and that's what she says he swung to hit her with.
There was something inside, like very heavy.
It was near the corner of Sunset and Bronson, just before 4 p.m. last Wednesday, that Tansiri said...
He figured out how to kick and punch at the same time.
Do you think he said anything to her before he hit her with the bag filled with shoes?
There was something inside, like very heavy.
It was near the corner of Sunset and Bronson, just before 4 p.m. last Wednesday, that Tansiri says the incident happened.
You know, we don't get that many crime blotter stories in L.A. that happen at night anymore.
What did two shoes say to the face?
Wednesday, that Tansiri says the incident happened, not far from where she lives. The blow left her with a large cut above her eye, as well as other cuts and a badly bruised lip.
This thing never happened to me in my life. I never got attacked before.
Surveillance video.
Wherever her home country is, it wasn't this violent.
No, she never got hit with a couple of Converse over there.
Surveillance video from a nearby business shows Tansiri walking down the sidewalk just moments before the attack happened. She says she'd never seen the man before in her life. She filed a police report while at the hospital being treated for her injuries, but investigators say they haven't yet identified a suspect in the case.
Well, how many people are walking around with a bag of shoes?
It can't be that many. Just think of Santa without the toys.
But investigators say they haven't yet identified a suspect in the case.
They even asked me if I can remember if they arrested him.
Now, do you think they can identify the imprint of the shoes on her forehead?
Now, that's forensic evidence.
I absolutely, I remember. I could remember him, yeah.
Tansiri is a working model and says the attack not only affected her ability to book jobs, but has impacted her sense of safety and security. She said she wants to share her story in hopes of warning others to always be on alert.
Since this happened,
even at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday.
Yeah, how much work is there out there for a model with a smashed up face?
Since this happened, I'm scared to be out. To be honest, I'm still processing other feeling and stuff, and I completely lost confidence. Yeah, walking around.
And we did reach out to LAPD. They say they're still investigating this case and ask anyone who might have any information about what happened last Wednesday in Hollywood around 4 p.m. to please contact them. That's the latest from Hollywood. Lindsay Pena, KTLA 5 News. Back to you guys in the studio.
So there you go. A model just minding her business, walking on Sunset Boulevard at 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, comes across a man with a bag of shoes, and the shoes end up all over her face.
I'm telling you, whether they know it or not, what they're doing is they are begging for vigilantism. Because how many times do we do these stories and no one gets arrested? Or if they do get arrested, they get released immediately, and there's no punishment. There's no punishment for the bad behavior.
It's funny. We've actually increased the jail population thanks to Prop 36. So we're filling up the jail full of nonviolent retail people and people who refuse to get treatment for drugs. But the violent people we can't seem to do anything about now.
No. And these are iconic parts of Los Angeles, Hollywood, West Hollywood. Wasn't it West Hollywood where we did a story not long ago about a park where there's a flasher who's standing out there playing with himself in front of women and children, and the cops are there while it's happening and they still can't arrest him?
Nothing they can do.
What's the point of having two dads if one of them won't beat up a flasher? I mean, come on.
Well, this is what happens when you live in the land of the sophisticated voter.
Voters in California are sophisticated.
We're so sophisticated, we live like this. It's unreal. And we got a stack of blotter entries here that go on for a mile this week, too.
Yep.
But crime is going down.
So they say. Actually, I just saw a post that, Karen Bass has been touting all year that the murder rate is at historic lows.
Yes.
It's higher this year at this point in time than it was last year.
Well, if you were smart enough to understand statistics, it's actually lower.
Voters in California are sophisticated.